You are listening to the It's Your Time podcast, and I'm your host, certified life coach Michelle Arnold Burke. In today's episode, I'm discussing habits to greater success. Welcome to the It's Your Time podcast, the podcast where busy professionals like you get the practical solutions and support you need to gain control of your schedule so you can strive to be the best in your career, but without the stress and overwhelm. If you're looking to increase your energy and decrease your stress, you are in the right place. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, friends. Hey, listen, I want to ask a favor. If you are loving what you're hearing here each week, would you be so kind to share it with maybe a friend or a coworker or anyone that you think could benefit from it? I really want to help as many women as possible feel more empowered in their lives so that we can all do things like excel in our careers, but without the stress and overwhelm, so that we can do more things in our life that we love. Shouldn't we all have that opportunity? I mean, let's spread the wealth, right? Now, I will be honest, I am recording this podcast a little bit in advance because we have a couple days planned away and I didn't want to be too stressed out about the schedule in order to do it. And in doing so, I had to change a few habits. I had to change a few things on the schedule in order to get it done. And so I thought it would be a great day to talk about your habits and habits to greater success, because the habits that you have currently are an indication of the results that you have in your life. And I also know this is important to you all because the podcast that I did on the book Atomic Habits by James Clear is still the most downloaded episode. It was such a great book and I still highly recommend it. Now, habits can be useful and habits can be not so useful. Habits can be unconscious, or they can seem like quite a grind to get started or stop. In fact, James Clear says, before you ask, what should I do today? Ask yourself, what should I remove today in order to create the space that you need to succeed? And I want you to really stop and think about that before we get too far into all of this habit stuff and the tactics and the plans for the new habits. What habits can you remove? And I will tell you, one habit I had a couple years ago was to stop at a local restaurant many nights after work to meet up with Mark and some friends to have a glass of wine or two. But you know what? Although at the time it seemed super fun, it really wasn't a habit that left me with a net positive effect. So think about that. What habits do you have that seem to leave you with what we call a net negative effect? And what I mean by that is I might have the wine or get home and maybe not do some of the extra work or learning that I planned because I was feeling a little too relaxed, or maybe I felt more tired the next day and I didn't quite exercise the way I wanted to. That is what causes the net negative effect. Maybe for you, it's grabbing the glass of wine or two, heck, 3, as you start making dinner because you think the family is chaotic and work is driving you over the edge because it is so crazy, right? And you just need to relax. Or maybe it's heading for the cookies at the end of the night. Take a little bit of time to look at what habits do not seem to serve you any longer. And you might want to consider the option to start breaking them. Now, none of this is a problem. Clearly, the habit is doing something for you. Your brain might be telling you it's the only way that you can relax, or you've always gone for the sweets at night. That doesn't mean you need to believe it's the way it always has to be. Remember, our brain is designed on the motivational triad of avoiding pain, seeking pleasure, and being as efficient as possible. So when you try to make these changes, your primitive brain will most likely revolt. And that's okay. Remind yourself that it is normal and you can override it with your prefrontal cortex. Now, I'm not saying you have to go from 2 or 3 glasses of wine or 4 or 5 cookies a night to 0. Start changing the habit slowly. Maybe it's 1 or 2 glasses to start, or maybe it's 2 cookies at the end of the night. You just start breaking the habit of being yourself in order to become your next version. So your number one habit to success might be changing the habits that really don't serve who you want to become. But please hear me when I say you cannot change habits from shame. Notice that at the time, the habit was doing something for you. It's totally normal. It is not a problem. And now we just know better, so we start anew. And it can just be different now, right? So what is one way to start breaking your habits? I love the idea of just noticing why you do have those habits to begin with. Why are you going for the wine? Usually because you think it's the only way you can relax, or it's how you connect, or it's how you take the edge off, or I don't know, maybe it's how you dance better, right? Like we all have our reasons. And think about, why is it that you're going for the extra food? I mean, really, you can insert anything here. Shopping, social media, overworking. But what is the reason that you have held this habit? And your brain might say, well, it's just what I've always done. But get curious. Why? There might be something more in there. And I want you to also know that it is never the food or the wine or the social media that controls you. It's never the job that controls you. We are empowered women here. We own our life. We own that we choose to have the food, or we choose to go to get the next glass of wine, or we choose to overwork. I mean, seriously, think about this. The wine and the food do not just come into the living room and jump down your throat, right? No, we choose to get up off the couch, to go back out to the kitchen, and to pour another glass of wine or to grab another cookie. And we can choose differently, but we need to believe that there are other options. So first, get curious. Why are you doing this habit that you don't believe is very useful for you at this time? And start telling yourself the reasons why you want to stop doing the habit. Get clear on understanding what is going to be better for you once you stop the habit. Now, let's take a look at perhaps habits that you want to create. I want you to consider, what is the life you want to create? That is the first thing you need to ask yourself. What is the result, and who do you need to become? Do you want to be someone, for example, who is fit? I want you to think of the identity that you want to assume with the new habits. First, you need to believe that the new identity is possible. You need to believe that whatever that goal or the result is actually possible for you. And from there, you can start building in your new habits. What habits would you need to stop doing, like we just talked about? And what habits do you need to start doing in order to become that person that creates that result? Make it a habit to start thinking about her. Start thinking about your future self. So, is it, for example, an award that you want to win at the end of the year? What does she do daily that you aren't doing today? Now, you know I'm going to say another habit that you should consider is how you manage your time. And not even manage, I would say prioritize. You must prioritize your time, and you must put the most important things at the top. It is so easy to get into the habit of taking care of the urgent things. But the urgent things are not always the important things. Inattentional blindness is the failure to notice what is fully visible, but perhaps an unexpected object because attention is engaged on another task or event or object. And when this happens, you're likely missing out because you're so focused on the urgent, perhaps even smaller goals. And I know a lot of folks tend to major in the minor things in life because we're comfortable there, right? And it seems that if it's urgent, it needs to be done. And we love to be the ones to take care of it all. Full stop here, friends. You need to first take care of yourself. You should be prioritizing your self-care on that calendar. And what might that even look like? Ask yourself, for you, what is self-care? It is not always a bubble bath and a massage and a facial. It might look like a walk, a workout, a moment to sit in the car before you head into the house. Self-care is decided by you. We really need to clarify, what is it that you are looking for in life? And then you'll start to see it everywhere. So you need to be in the habit of thinking about your future self. And by your future self, I mean that could be you tomorrow or in 5 years. And I recently talked about this on Instagram and Facebook, which, by the way, are you following me there at Michelle Burke Coaching? It's where I am the most fun, if I may say so myself. But what I talked about was the idea of empathy. It's just such an important word in the corporate world and in leadership, right? But I want us to consider being empathetic towards your future self. How often do you consider how the habits that you have today are affecting her? It's an interesting question. When you start thinking like that, you start changing your habits. What does she do with her time? How does she prioritize? Start doing that now as you become her, and as you do more of that, you do become her. Now, let's just go back for a moment about time. What habits do you have in place that allows you to allocate your time in a way that represents the priorities in your life? Think about this. Think about, what are your top 10 priorities in life? And then think about the last 24 hours and how you spent your time. Map out what you did. All of it. Don't be skipping spots. How did you spend your last 24 hours? And now I want you to compare the two lists. Do they line up? I know for me, when I first did this, I was shocked because what I said was important was not really how I spent my time. And I will repeat myself here. Be sure to add time for you as one of the first things on your calendar. You cannot possibly take care of everything and everyone else if you are not taking care of yourself. And I love getting into the habit of blocking things to do on my calendar in a specific time slot, which does include my self-care time as well. So if they are super important that need to be done, they are just not on my list of things to do. They have an allotted time slot with an allotted amount of time to complete it. And I leave myself buffer time on my calendar in order to adjust if need be, because my schedule, which I'm assuming like many of you, is super fluid. And I want to be able to have the flexibility to move a few things around with scheduled buffer time. And so I've set myself up in a way that honors who I want to be. And that doesn't look like some of the ways my early coaches told me to do it, but it looks like a way that works for me, that I like. So what works for you? What decisions can you make with your time that works for you and that you like? And I promise you, at first it seems so much more restricted and structured and maybe not as flexible, but when you put things on the calendar, it actually frees up so much space for you. It frees up so much energy, so much brain power, and you can just start small. Darren Hardy talks about the importance of the compound effect in his book, well, rightly called The Compound Effect. Another great one, if I may say so. Highly recommend it. It's the idea that consistent changes over time, small consistent changes over time, will leave you with lasting change. And I want you to make it easy for yourself to start the new habit. And I think I've told this story before. When I started meditating, for example, I literally started, I think 2 minutes, but honestly, it might have even been 1 minute. And now I'm up to at least 20 minutes a day. Don't let your perfectionist brain tell you that 1 or 2 minutes is not enough. And another one that I work on daily is taking the time to think about my future self. I literally put a reminder on my phone for minimum 5 minutes in the morning. And now I'm usually over 5 minutes, but at least I know I can get it in. And I have not required a great amount of time to do it. Think about that. It can be easy for you. There is a learning curve involved with forming new habits, and when researchers track the level of automaticity for a habit, they find it's the habits formed on frequency, not amount of time, that change behavior. It's not so much how long does it take a habit to build, right? A lot of times people say, is it 90 days? Is it 30 days? Is it however many days? It's not so much the time, but the frequency. It's the rate at which you perform the habit that is most important. And the way you can perform it more frequently is that you ensure that you make it easy for yourself, because making it easy allows you to tie multiple times of performing the habit together, right? So I suggest that you put the new habit that you want to begin, stack it on a habit that you already have. So I know in the morning, without fail for sure, you all know I have my coffee and I read for a bit. And now after reading, I do my future self thinking. Think about where you can stack your new habit on top of one that you already have. Is it maybe starting the habit after you brush your teeth? Is it maybe before you have your tea at night? Where do you have a habit that you want to keep that you can stack another new useful habit on top of? And how can you make it easy for you? Like, let's say you want to start working out. How can you get your sneakers on to at least get you started? Because listen, it is human nature to follow the law of least effort, which basically means we gravitate towards the option that has the least effort. And a great example that I hear often around this is in the world of diet mentality. We have been told for years and years and years, restriction is the key. It's such a lie. So we tell ourselves that we need all these new habits in place around eating, which again, overeating provides you with something, usually not having to deal with some emotions. But when we want to start putting new habits in place, we make it hard for ourselves and we say we will only eat XYZ, maybe salad, carrots, and egg whites. And then it might even be things that we don't like, right? On top of that, we say that we need to start exercising minimum 30 minutes a day, 6 days a week. We can be such drill sergeants to ourselves, right? And it usually feels terrible. And then we wonder why, as we trot by the cookie jar, we grab ass 1 or 2 of them. Of course, if the cookie jar is there and the sneakers are downstairs and you don't even like the food you planned, your brain for sure will say, just give me the damn cookie and we'll start tomorrow, right? I mean, let's face it, our brain's job is to keep us safe and comfortable. That's our primitive brain. But we are here to do bigger work than that, my friends. And I want you to think about all of the questions that I asked today. What is the result that you want? Who do you need to become in order to accomplish that? What habits does she start or stop doing? Question the habits that are not serving you. How can you make the new habit easy for you to get started? Because this work is all about lifestyle changes. It's not a one done quick fix. We change our minds, we change our worlds. And if you need help with this, you know that we can always hop on a strategy call. Just go to michelleburtcoaching.com/connect and we can get a time set. Okay, that's what I have for you today. Let's circle back next week, but for now, make it a great day. Take care. Did you know you can take this work to a deeper level with me one-on-one? Go to michelleburkecoaching.com and click on Get Started to begin.